All right, welcome back to the channel, y'all. So hold on for a minute. I know everybody is seeing the headlines saying charges have been dropped against Diddy. For all the Diddy supporters out there, I'm wishing, like you wishing, I know y'all was wishing that all the charges were dropped. All of you are probably wishing that all the charges were dropped. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So let me make it as simple and as clear as possible for everybody else, where even a child could understand this, okay? If you've never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified every time a new video goes up on this channel. We're following this whole situation closely, all right? So, as of June 25th, 2025, during his ongoing federal criminal trial, prosecutors have moved to drop some of the charges against Sean Diddy Combs, while other charges remain. Here are the charges that were dropped. Attempted kidnapping was dropped. Arson was dropped. Aiding and abetting sex trafficking was dropped. Attempted kidnapping was dropped. Prosecutors are no longer pursuing allegations that Diddy engaged in attempted kidnapping in California and in New York. The arson was dropped. Those allegations related to attempted arson in California have been dropped. Aiding and abetting sex trafficking. This specific criminal allegation is no longer being pursued by the feds. Here are the charges that remain. Sex trafficking remains. Racketeering remains. Transportation to engage in prostitution remains. Here's the explanation. The charges that remain. Sex trafficking, allegations of sex trafficking, including those involving his ex-girlfriend, Cassie, and a woman identified as Jane, who we now know to be 50 Cent's baby mama. Those charges are still a part of the case for sex trafficking. For racketeering, charges that remain, Diddy still faces a racketeering charge, while some specific acts like attempted kidnapping and arson are no longer being pursued under this charge, the racketeering charge. The overall conspiracy count still includes allegations such as bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, and drug offenses. So racketeering still remains. And then the last one that still remains, transportation to engage in prostitution. He still has 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution remaining, based on accusations that he paid for individuals to travel for sex with his girlfriends while he observed them doing it. So, the charges that were dropped: attempted kidnapping, arson, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. The charges that remain: sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. What's the reason for dropping the charges? Well, the prosecutors have said that the charges were dropped so that they could simplify the jury instructions, because they don't want to confuse the jury and then have the jurors come back with a mistrial or a hung jury. They need a definite conviction. So we got to take some of these out, shave it down a bit, so the explanation to them will be simple. Therefore, they will have simple guidelines to follow. Important things to note: Diddy has entered a not guilty plea on all charges. Important things to note is that the dropped charges are primarily tied to specific instances within the larger racketeering charge, and the indictment still alleges that he committed arson and kidnapping as part of a criminal conspiracy. Another important thing to note is that the trial is ongoing. with closing arguments anticipated to start on Thursday, the 26th of June, 2025. That's tomorrow, and then the rest will be there. All right, we just put this piece right here just together to have everybody up to date on what took place today, what has been said. If you know that nobody was in court today, but tomorrow they'll be back in court again, which is Thursday, and that is when the closing arguments are supposed to begin, and we will watch the rest of this trial play out. Still, enjoy the rest of this video. Hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you in the comment section, and I will see you on another video. Welcome back to SouFLoTV. If you've never been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified every time a new video goes up on this channel. Let's get right into the material. So, Sean P. Diddy Combs, Brother Love, Diddy, whatever you want to call him, you already know he's been dragged through the system. Well, his trial has come to an end. So Sean Diddy Combs' attorneys ended their defense case in about 20 minutes. Family, a lot of people are nervous for Diddy right now. For those who supported him and are wishing for his freedom, they're nervous for Diddy right now. Let's put it in a nutshell like this. The prosecution spent 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks. Matter of fact, the prosecution spent 7 weeks going at Diddy. They presented 34 witnesses, and Diddy's attorneys, when it was their turn to go, they presented 0 witnesses, and they stayed up there for 20 minutes. Let me say this again. The prosecution, 7 weeks of testimonies, 34 witnesses laid out for the jury, and Diddy's team, when it was their turn to go, 0 witnesses and 20 minutes. How does 20 minutes compare to 7 weeks? How does 34 witnesses compare to 0 in your defense? I know a lot of people are saying it looks bad right now, but I'm sure there's an explanation to this, and I'm sure there's a method to this madness, or what looks like madness. I mean, we have Brian Steele up there, okay? So, Sean Diddy Combs' attorneys ended their defense case after only 20 minutes is the headlines. His legal team rested their case in his sex trafficking trial on Tuesday, which was the 24th of June, 2025. Their short presentation followed nearly 7 weeks of arguments and witness testimony brought by federal prosecution in a New York court. The prosecution finished making their case Tuesday afternoon as well. This defense attorney, Diddy's defense attorneys, argued that the government has actually failed to meet the burden in proving any of the charges that were brought against him, which he has vehemently denied, and that the judge should drop the case against him. Oh, man. Listen, they asked this judge to throw this case out before, during the trial, when the judge, they had a situation where one of Cassie's friends testified that Diddy held her over a balcony. The defense and the prosecution had a meeting before that went to court so the jury could hear it. So before it got even to the jurors, defense and prosecution already shared that piece of evidence, right? It wasn't really an evidence, it was an accusation. The defense, Diddy's attorneys, already said to the prosecution, look, there's no way he could have held her over the balcony because she is saying that it's on this date, in this location, and we have proof. Here are all the hotel itineraries. Pull up video footage from that same hotel. pull up pictures from this major event that took place in New York. She is saying he was in California holding her over a balcony. We have proof he was in New York. The prosecution should have said, okay, that's proven to be wrong, so let's not put it before the jurors. The prosecution still went ahead anyways and had her get up there on the stand and testify how Diddy held her over a balcony, knowing that his team already proved to them that that was impossible because he couldn't be in two places at once. And they have solid proof. So they went to the judge and they said, Your Honor, this now has tainted the mind of the jury. We cannot strike this out of the mind of the jury. This will prejudice their decision in the end. We move for a mistrial. The judge said no. Keep the case going, but strike that piece of testimony from the record. See, the damage is already done. You can't strike that piece of testimony from the jurors' minds. And in their minds, some of them still think he held her over a balcony. So what monster is this? You understand? This is the same judge they're asking now to just throw out the case, drop the case against Diddy. I don't think it's going to happen. I think this judge is greatly prejudiced. And I explained this in another video before. Because of Judge Subramanian's South Asian background and how they are typically in that community towards Black people, especially African Americans, this might not be a good thing if it comes down to asking the judge to drop this. Now, mind you, even a judge has said to the prosecution during this case, like 4 or 5 weeks in, the judge said, okay, we've heard a lot now. Y'all are going to have to start showing proof of sex trafficking and racketeering. That's something coming from the judge. If the judge is saying, yo, we way into this trial, y'all charging him with sex trafficking and racketeering, and I haven't seen an ounce of it yet, y'all are going to have to start showing some of that. You would think the judge would be on his side, right? I don't think so. I don't think so. So this is what Diddy's defense team got up and said. Now, what everybody needs to understand is this. The burden of proof is not on the accused. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. The burden of proof is on the accuser. You're the one that's accusing him of something. You're the one that must prove that what you're accusing him of is what he is guilty of. So Diddy's team didn't need to go up there for days and put him on the stand. I know a lot of people are saying, damn, he didn't speak in his own defense. That kind of makes him look guilty. I even heard one news reporter on a very prominent news station say, oh, so he's not going to speak in his own defense? I guess he's going to do what all the other rich and famous people do, which is hide behind their powerful attorneys. And I said, damn. But you got to understand that putting Diddy on the stand could prolong this trial for another 2 weeks, possibly. Because if he is on the stand and he says, let me just get up and say, I'm a good person. These are lies. I deny all these accusations. I might not have been the perfect guy, but I had relationships with these women. And yeah, blah, blah, blah. Try to make himself look like I'm not a sex trafficker, racketeering kind of guy. I just had bad relationships, and this wasn't a RICO trial. This should have never made it to federal court. The prosecution would have jumped all over that. They would have rehashed every one of the 34 witnesses' stories. And Diddy would have had to answer cross-examination questions for the next 2 weeks. So his team chose to not put him up there or advised him to not. I don't know if you know the law, but in the law it says your attorneys cannot tell you that you cannot speak on your own behalf. They can advise you not to speak on your own behalf, and they can tell you why they think it's a wise decision to not speak on your own behalf, but they cannot tell you to not do it. So end of the day, the decision comes down to Diddy. If he's the person who listens to his attorneys, he says, you know what, I'm trusting you guys, you know best. Or he can go, nah, F that, I'm speaking. Diddy also confirmed to the courts, he got up, he spoke in court yesterday. He confirmed to the courts that he would not take the stand in his own trial. He said, it's my decision with my lawyers not to testify, Your Honor. This is something that the client must make very clear to the judge, so there is no mistake. So later on, if he is convicted and later on he goes for appeal, if they cannot say, well, he was denied the right to speak on his own behalf in court. So he got up with a clear mind, spoke eloquently, clear, and told judge, it is my decision with my lawyers not to testify in this case. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The sex trafficking, the racketeering, those were never proven. The transportation to engage in prostitution part, that kind of like you're transporting people to have sex with them. Then you would pay them for money. So you fly a girl out from, say, Miami because you live in New York and you got money like that. And you fly her from Miami to New York. Remember when recently it was like a lot of females talking about, I'm getting flown out. I'm getting flown out. Right. So you fly a girl out from Miami to New York. Boom. She ends up in New York with you. You have a good time with her for a couple of days. You hit her a couple of stacks. You fly her back to Miami. Transportation to engage in prostitution falls right under that because she got paid for her time and whatever else y'all did together. Let's see how that part of the case goes down. He faces up to life in prison if he is convicted in the scheme. Now, speaking for the first time in court in weeks, Diddy told Judge Arun Subramanian that he was doing an excellent job. Man, listen, he wasn't going to say anything else. He couldn't say anything else. He can't get up there and say, yo, you should have threw this case out 4 weeks in when there was absolutely no sign of sex trafficking or racketeering. You should have threw this case out when Shorty said I hung her over the balcony in California, but I was actually in New York and it was proven. You should have threw this case out when X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Why did y'all remove the black juror who was 41 years old and a fan of 90s hip hop, my era, who was born and raised in the Bronx? Why did you remove him and put a Caucasian man from the suburbs who is 57 or 50, whatever he is, and an engineer who has no touch with our background or growing up? I mean, doesn't the Constitution give me the right to be judged by a group of my own peers? He ain't my peers. And you took somebody out who was more like my peers and put somebody in who absolutely isn't. So all that, you a shitty judge. He couldn't get up and say all that. His life hangs in a balance. He has to show restraint, respect for law and authority. He has to show some level of decorum. So he got up, he thanked the judge. He said, Your Honor, you're doing a great job, and I just want to thank you. And it's the decision between me and my lawyers that I will not be testifying in this trial. Prosecutors have alleged that Diddy used his celebratory status as a celebrity and his business empire to run a criminal enterprise to sex traffic women and to conceal his crimes. Come on now, that's a friggin' lie. Bad Boy was a legitimate label. Sean John, a legitimate label. Ciroc, and all the others he got into, legitimate businesses. He did not use those to sex traffic women. If he did, where are the women? There should have been tons of women in here on this in this trial. Instead, we had Cassie, who he was with for 11 years. And then we had, what's his name, baby moms, 50 Cent's baby moms, who he been with for the past 3 years, going on 4 years, who he still pays her bills, even while she is summoned to testify on the prosecution side. Who pays for somebody's attorney while they are testifying against you and pay for their luxury lifestyle? If you're trafficking a female, you don't give her $100,000 limit to her shopping spree and take her out to some exotic island for vacations. The defense called none. Instead, they submitted into evidence several text messages between Diddy and his ex-girlfriend, or the singer, Cassandra Ventura, and another victim who testified under the pseudonym of Jane, which we all know who she is. All these text messages from these two women, because they are the only two women, all these text messages basically showed that they were willing participants, adults who made adults' decision. Maybe it was a poor decision. They know why they stayed in that relationship even when things got bad. Because the lows were low and the highs were really friggin' high. And they were willing to ride the lows so they could enjoy those really high highs. Cassie even said it when Diddy's assistant said to her, "Girl, you gotta leave him. Why don't you leave him?" And Cassie said, right, "Leave him? Who am I gonna date? Jay-Z is already taken." That means she goes for top head honchos, big bosses. Don't forget, Jay-Z and Diddy are good friends. So if I can't get a Jay-Z, I'm getting a Diddy. If I can't get a Diddy or a Jay-Z, I don't think there's anybody else out here for me. That's what her statement implied. Ain't nobody else out here that got the kind of money and connections that these guys got that can spend $1 million. Shine, the rapper, who is not on good terms with Diddy, Shine said in his interview when they were in Paris, he witnessed Diddy spend $1 million cash on Cassie. 1 million. How many guys are able to do that? Shine said they got in an argument. They started fighting. Diddy beat her up. She fought him. He fought her. They were fighting. And then when he was done, to make her feel better, he took her on a shopping spree and spent $1 million. And Shine said he was upset because that man gave him $50,000. And he was like, "You giving me $50,000, but I'm the artist that's working and my music is selling, but you spent $1 million on a broad. Because that's who you fucking and y'all fighting. And she mad. And you trying to make her feel better." The people who are around them knows. So the defense didn't call anybody. They submitted these text messages, like Cassie saying she is always ready for a freak off and she can't wait. And other text messages with Jane saying, "Oh, she loved this and thanks for putting this together so intricately. I just love the details, how you paid attention to detail." That means she got her favorite freak off freak. She got everything done the way she would like it to be done. It's very difficult for a defense team to decide whether to call any fact witnesses to the stand, said Mitchell Epner, who is a New York-based lawyer and former prosecutor. Calling new witnesses can introduce more problems for the defense, and having Mr. Combs take the stand would have been an even riskier move, hanging the case mostly on his testimony. They don't want to do that. Instead, Mr. Combs' lawyers gave a quick presentation showing messages in an attempt to bolster their argument that Diddy's girlfriend were willing participants in all their sexual encounters with him and these male escorts that they had, which were called the Freak-Offs, and that was that. They had other names for it, King's Knights, or forgot what the other one called it again, but that's where it ends. In one text message to Mr. Combs that his attorney read out loud in the courts, Jane, which we know to be 50 Cent's baby mama, said, "I always have fun during our freak-offs, or what I call hotel nights." The quick defense case came after Diddy's legal team filed a motion asking the court to acquit their client, claiming that the government had not met their burden in proving any of the charges including sex trafficking and racketeering. His attorney, Alexandra Shapiro, argued that the victims in this case were capable women who could have left on their own accord at any given time. Given a hint of the points the legal team is likely to present during closing arguments scheduled for this week on Thursday and Friday. So they won't be in court today. Today is Wednesday. Today is the 25th of June, 2025. They won't be in court today. Tomorrow, they'll be there Thursday and then Friday. And this is when the closing arguments will kick off. The closing arguments is where, they bring it all together in an argument before the jury, basically telling the jury, remember, this is what we showed you, this is what we showed you, this is what we showed you, and remember this, and ask yourself that, and be logical about this. And then the defense will do the same thing and counter whatever the prosecution says, and then, the jury will go before the judge next, and the judge will educate them again on what sex trafficking is and what racketeering is. And if you saw any of that throughout this trial, then you must vote guilty. If you didn't see any of this throughout the trial, according to how it is labeled in the law, then you must vote not guilty, and the judge will send them off to deliberate. They'll be sequestered, which means they will be locked in some hotel room somewhere until they can come up with a guilty, not guilty, or mistrial, hung jury, or whatever the case may be. We're at the end of the Diddy trial. Let's see how the closing arguments go. It's going to be very interesting to see the closing arguments. Diddy is either one step closer to freedom, or he is one step closer to losing all his shit. And we're about to find out. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. Do you think that the prosecution proved its case and that Diddy deserves life in prison or an extended prison sentence? Or do you think that his attorneys are right? The prosecution did not prove their case, and the judge needs to drop these charges and allow him to walk. I'll catch you in the comment section. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you are notified every time a new video goes up on this channel. I'm out. Peace.